After 6 hours of school, I've had enough for today. I hit the radio dial and turn it up all the way. I'm playing UK hockey fan. UK hockey
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the UK Hockey Fan Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Finn.
And I'm Jonty.
We got Jonty in the house. Right. I hope everybody's been checking out our NHL shutdown series. We've been doing a short series of podcasts during the crazy COVID madness that is worldwide. Well, there's no hockey happening. We're trying to do more regular podcasts, but a little bit shorter because we know most people are not doing a commute anymore and don't have an hour and a half to give to us once a week. So instead, we're trying to keep these two around half an hour or something like that, but bring them out a little bit more regular so you have something to check in with every once in a while to try and deal with your hockey fix. Which is, you know, what we're all about as well. We're missing hockey, and so we're digging into the vaults and trying to find some interesting stuff to talk about, hockey-wise, while there is no actual hockey being played by us or anyone else.
Exactly.
So, a couple interesting things happening, though, today. I wanted to talk about this cool book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, yeah?
And it talks a lot about hockey in the beginning, and it's to do with predetermined advantages that you can have. Anyway, I'll come on to talking about that later. Big one today. We got Scott Antcliffe from Cliffy's Notes, who joined us for the whole episode last time, is on again today. He's got a great friend of the podcast, Rachel Cartwright, who is an amazing hockey player here in the UK, plays for Bracknell Queen Bees and also GB. He interviewed her for the podcast, and that'll be on in a little bit. Jonty's here. He's going to talk about one of the teams. He's been doing some research. What team were you going to talk about, John?
I've been doing the Boston Bruins.
Okay, we'll come on to that in a minute. And there's some actual Leafs news.
For once?
Yeah. Don't say for once.
For the first time since the suspension of
but
the
we've
season.
been digging around for news. It's lean on the ground for sure, but there is some Leafs news. We both saw it straight away last night, and we'll talk about that as well. Anything else we're going to go? Is that probably it for now?
I think that's it.
Let's go. Right. Let's kick off with that Leafs news because that's hot off the press.
It is indeed. I actually have a couple things. The one that you don't know, you haven't seen yet. It came out.
Oh, right.
I'm pretty sure.
Mystery surprise.
It came out like 4 hours ago.
Oh.
So I don't think you've seen it yet.
No, I've been asleep since then. Just trying
fair enough. Yeah.
Sleep off this morning's hangover.
So first off, we have some signings. So Philip Krall, he's signed a 3-year ELC. He is a defenseman, I think. Oh no, they're both defensemen. And Christian Rubens has signed a 2-year ELC with the Maple Leafs. I believe he also played with the Toronto Marlies. So we've got a Marlies guy who signed a Leafs contract, and another guy who looks to play in the WHL. He has signed a 3-year ELC with the Leafs, and they're two defensemen. So hopefully they will somehow or some way turn in something good from the Leafs decor. So that's all good. Those are the two signings there.
So ELC, for those not in the know, is entry-level contract.
Sorry, yep.
And so where do we think they'll appear? Marlies?
One of them already plays in the Marlies.
Okay.
But he signed a Leafs ELC.
Leafs ELC, I got you. Okay. All right. Cool.
And then the other news. This is just a bit of an update. It's not like super like breaking news kind of thing. But this is about Jason Spezza.
Okay.
So his contract comes up at the end of this year.
Oh.
And
no.
he has expressed a desire to stay on with the Leafs.
Okay.
Which is always good.
Yeah.
When you want a player to re-sign.
Yep.
But they have yet to engage in any contract negotiations.
I think it's the wrong time, probably.
I mean, it might be like you can look at it two ways, and everyone has time off, so they can think about stuff, right?
Yeah.
And this is also the time where people will just be sitting down. You'll have Dubas just sitting in his house, just chilling, because it's Dubas.
Okay.
And then they can negotiate contracts this way, because like there's nothing else to do.
That's true.
And this is why you'll see some random signings everywhere.
Yeah.
Because they'll just be like, oh, well, we may as well do something.
It's interesting because obviously I was messaging briefly with Rachel Cartwright the other day, and she was saying, what do I think about the playoffs. Will they actually play the playoffs? And I have to say, with every passing week, I think it's a grim possibility that
I don't think it's going to
that
happen.
anything will happen. So that sort of neutralizes a lot of contract discussions and things like that, because you want to go into you want to base some of your performance from the playoffs and use that as a factor in your negotiation for a new contract or whatever, right? And so you take away the playoffs and you sort of take away that opportunity. But who knows? Fingers crossed, anything's possible in this crazy world that we're living in at the moment. So some interesting Leafs news, and some it's great that something's happening, some signings happening.
Exactly.
We certainly need to pile up the defenders for next year.
Stop signing flipping forwards when we already have one of the best forward cores in the entire league.
We really need some more defenders. Right. Should we go to talking about the Boston Bruins? Because what I was going to say is that over the shutdown series, we've been doing these short ones, and we started off by just putting it out to listeners and saying, hey, tell us about a team that you know or like or maybe play on or you're a fan of, and we'll dig into them a bit and find out a few more details that we could share with a wider world. Those people listening out there, the figure that we like to big up is the fact that we can see from the stats that this podcast is listened to in 55 different countries worldwide. Whoop, whoop. Mainly the US and Canada, I have to say, by a large margin, followed by the UK. And then dotted all over the place. And so who really knows about any particular team? So we've talked about teams from Canada. We've talked about teams from the NHL, OHL. We've talked about teams, women's teams from here in the UK. We've talked about elite teams here in the UK. We've talked about Midwestern Junior B in Ontario, all sorts of teams, and we're going to keep doing it. So if you want us to talk about a team, whether it's your team or just a team that you really like, just hit us up on social media and we'll get to it. So one that we've been putting off for a little while as Leafs fans is somebody wanted us to talk about the Boston Bruins. And so their original 6 team, so we're down with that. And Jonty's been digging into it a little bit, and he's going to tell us what he found out. John, over to you.
Okay, so the Boston Bruins are a professional ice hockey team based in Boston, USA. They compete in the National Hockey League, the NHL, as a member of the Atlantic Division of the Eastern Conference. The team has been in existence since 1924 and is the league's 3rd oldest team overall and the oldest in the United States.
Cool. Now, let me ask you this. How many times have the Bruins won the Stanley Cup?
They've won it 6 times.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Who's the head coach?
Bruce Cassidy.
Right, okay. He's a good coach. What about the captain? Who's the current captain of the Bruins?
Zdeno Chara.
Yeah, Chara.
Chara.
That's pretty good. Right, what else can you tell us? Where do they play their games?
They play at the TD Arena.
Okay, TD Garden, I think they call it, which I've always found ironic because, of course, the TD stands for Toronto Dominion. The Toronto Dominion Bank currently sponsoring that arena. And so they've got a couple minor league teams as well. Do you know who they are? So like the Leafs has the Marlies, the Bruins have some teams as well.
They have Atlanta.
The Atlanta Gladiators, I think, and Providence Bruins, I think, is the other team they've got. And so now they had a famous coach who coached them in 1974 and 75. Who was that coach?
Don Cherry.
Yeah, Grapes used to be the coach of Boston Bruins, those people that are Don Cherry fans like we are. And some famous players that have been there over the years and had their jerseys retired. We'll go through a couple of them. John, can you tell us a couple retired jerseys there?
So, Eddie Shaw.
Yeah, he's one guy. Obviously another huge hero of mine and most hockey lovers.
Bobby Orr.
Sure, Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito. What about this one?
Cam Neely.
Yeah, and who else should we mention? Oh, this guy.
Ray Borg.
Yeah, Ray Bork. So, that's a quick whistle-stop tour through the Boston Bruins. Loads of people know a lot about Boston Bruins. They're one of the original 6 teams and have had some super famous players and won the Stanley Cup 6 times. Jonty, good job.
Thank you.
Right. Now I think we should jump on to getting to Cliffy and listening to that interview with Rachel Cartwright. So let's cue that up.
Okay.
Right, so I am pleased to announce that we are joined by Rachel Cartwright, Queen Bee's forward and returning guest of the show. So thank you for jumping on, Rach.
No worries. Good to be back on.
Yep, so obviously it's a bit of a crazy time for everyone at the minute with what's going on. So how are you, and are you keeping safe during this, I guess, crazy time?
Yeah, all good from my side. Healthy, happy right now. Just trying to do my bit, obviously stay inside, except for kind of exercising and an exciting trip to the supermarkets every week.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The weekly adventure to the supermarket where it feels like it's some type of Krypton Factor challenge or something like that.
Exactly.
So, what sort of things are you doing then, obviously, day to day to keep busy other than, I know you work from home, which you're quite lucky to do, as are, a lot of people. So what else do you do to pass the time?
Yeah, I guess, Monday to Friday, quite normal. So still working as I normally would from home. But biggest thing for me, to be honest, is like adapting, doing my workouts at home instead of doing it at the gym. So kind of trying to make the most and be creative with, the small amount of weights and space I've got at home, to be honest. So just trying to keep up the fitness and then falling back into playing Sims and just trying to read a little bit more. So, yeah, just ended up trying to find a few things to keep myself busy with at the weekends because it's a little bit boring now without the hockey and stuff like that.
Oh wow, Sims, that's a throwback. That I blame Sims and games like Grand Theft Auto for my GCSE results not being as good as what they could have been.
Exactly.
But so recently this season, it's been, I guess, an interesting season because there's been a really good battle between yourselves and the Solihull Vixens. But then recently, the EIHA, obviously the governing body for most of the leagues here in the UK, have crowned the Solihull Vixens champions, despite there being 6 games left to play, and then 2 would have been against yourselves as well. So how did you and the girls sort of find that decision, I guess?
Yeah, honestly, felt good. I think all of us did when the decision was made. Obviously, with everything going on in the world at the moment, it seems pretty unimportant, but kind of like look back and think it's crazy. You don't really know when the last time you'll put your skates on for the season is. So, I think it's made us all realise, it's so important to enjoy kind of every moment we have and, give everything we can while we're on the ice. But I guess we're just trying to take the positives away from, the 3 quarters of the season we did get to play. And I think I'm totally confident to say I think if we'd have been able to finish the season, we would have won it. Kind of in those 20 games, but it is what it is, and obviously important to keep everyone safe right now. So, yeah, it was a blow definitely for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think there should have been like a different outcome, or maybe like I guess like a series potentially at the start of the season between you two, or something like that to decide it a bit more fairly?
Yeah, it's so hard, right? I think. There probably isn't like a fair outcome. Is that there's always going to be a team that might not be happy with the decision. Like the leagues, the EIHA leagues, probably all at various seasons. And like you said, we had 6 games left, over 25% of the league, and we were due to play Solihull twice at home. So there was still like a lot left on the table with 1 point between us. I think for me, my view is it should be made null and void, but. We just have to go with what happens. And I think, looking at it, Solihull probably feel it's a bit tainted as well, and they would prefer to win it outright, through 20 games, because there's always going to be that kind of, the league got short kind of comment back. So I don't think it was the best thing for anyone, but I'm not sure what, the other outcome could have been, to be honest.
Yeah, sure. So obviously the Vixens, they've been winning games as well, just as you guys have, and your history of winning so successfully, the Queen Bees. Has it made for more of a better, interesting year because you've had such a close battle with them?
Yeah, I think past couple of seasons it's been very close between us, and same for this one. I think what it's come to now is it's such a shock if we do lose a game, but that's probably just testament to, our team and kind of the consistency that we have. Like you said, we won one against them, we lost one this season, so and we've had loads of close games with them over the past couple of years, and it's intense and fun rivalry. So we love it. Those games are the ones we look forward to the most. It does make the league more competitive, and I think it's better for us as players, development and success of the national team as well. So, yeah, definitely great. I think now it's kind of, we want even more teams to kind of be at that same level. So, yeah, definitely a good thing for the league, for sure.
Yeah, so, I mean, it just goes to show how important confidence is in hockey, because when you're winning and you're a winning team, it just, you feel unbeatable, don't you? And that confidence just oozes out onto the ice, and everyone sort of plays with that spring in the step a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, are you happy with your own personal performances this year, or do you think there's anything where you think, I could have maybe played that a little better, or whatnot?
Yeah, honestly, I think it took me a couple of games to get going, so probably asking me 5 games in, I definitely wasn't happy with how I'd been playing, but one of the things that I think's helped us as well as a team is Nottingham Vipers, who were in our league, were videoing and live streaming the game, so we were able to watch a couple of games back and kind of pick out some points and things maybe we could work better on, and I think, past 5 or so games we've been in a really good groove, and I feel really happy with my performances. So again, another way of, it's gutting that we've kind of ended here, because, we as a team felt like we were in a really good rhythm.
Yeah, true. So has there been a player on your team this year who you think's been like an unsung hero who maybe hasn't got the plaudits that they deserve?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say Nick Bicknell, who's on our team. She had a baby last year in the summer, and she's come back to play, and she's been awesome. Contributed with goals, assists. She's a smart player on the ice and makes it easier for other people. So, I think probably doesn't get the plaudits that she deserves sometimes, but she's, brings so much to our team. And, I think we don't want her to retire anytime soon.
Yeah. Is she any relation to Adam Bicknell, who's played down that way for a long time?
Yes. Yeah, brother.
Ah, I thought so, yeah. When you hear the names in hockey circles, you tend to think, I wonder if they're related. And yeah, cool. That's a pretty cool story. So in recent years, the NHL has included the elite women's 3-on-3 game during the All-Star Weekend event. Previous to that, the schools competition with the likes of Kendall Coyne doing extremely well. Do you think a similar thing should be done here in the UK, maybe say at the Elite League playoff weekend or the NIHL playoff weekends?
Yeah, honestly, I think that would be really awesome. Get to kind of grow the women's game here, and there's so many talented women playing in the country, so it'd be a great way to show off kind of what we can do. The thing I thought about was I think my ideal would be if we had like an all-star team from the Women's Elite League versus maybe like a select team of GB players playing abroad, because there's so many amazing players as well playing in America, Sweden, so it'd be a great way to kind of showcase British talent at one of those tournaments. So yeah, definitely I think a lot of people will be excited about something like that happening in the future.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, and hopefully, we can maybe get the ball rolling, and we'll try and push it a bit more on the podcast as well, and hopefully get you girls the recognition that you deserve.
Yeah,
so,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so obviously you admitted last time, and from seeing your Twitter feed as well, that you're a big Liverpool fan. How gutting then is it for you to have the season cut short by obviously the coronavirus for the Liverpool fans?
Just missing it so much, like all the football. I really hope that they could figure out a safe way to finish the season. I guess, the big difference probably was, hockey, and then obviously what the Premier League is like is there's a lot riding on it in terms of the money involved, but also obviously the relegation and promotion between leagues. I'm sure Leeds fans would be pretty devastated if they don't get promoted this season. So, I think there's a lot of people that are probably keeping their eyes closed on what's going to happen. But yeah, just want to see Liverpool crown champions, want to see the victory parade in Liverpool and all that. So yeah, I'll be gutted if it gets put off kind of where it is, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. On a more positive note, my bank balance has never been better without betting on Bet365 and the football accumulators and things like that. I'm thinking, oh wow, it's definitely a benefit to come out of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I bet the teams are probably not teams. The betting companies are just trying to figure out what the hell they can get people to bet on in the meantime.
Yeah, they'll probably have to set up something like turtle racing on the back garden or crazy things like that. So, anyway, a couple tongue-in-cheek ones. So, obviously, we're in lockdown at the minute here in the UK. Which two players on your team would you like to be stuck in a lockdown with, and why? I know it's going to put you on the spot here, but if you could just choose just two players from the Queen Bees to be in lockdown with, who would you go for?
So I would pick Summers, so Lauren Summers, and Bonds, who doesn't technically play for us, but she still comes training, so she's our kind of former goalie. But we love going rollerblading together, so that could be our daily exercise, going rollerblading. So I'd pick them too.
Good plan. Right, so now to put you on the spot, and this one, hopefully you won't throw too many teammates under the bus, but which two players wouldn't you want to be in a lockdown with, and why?
And any of the younger kids on our team, so I'd say Emily Harris and Emma Nichols, because they have spent the entire time of this lockdown on the House Party app. And it would drive me absolutely insane. So I would say them too.
Yeah, that's a fair reason. Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that one. So just looking ahead to the future, are there any sort of targets that you'd like to achieve hockey-wise, whether that's personal accolades or whether that's going for that sort of 10th title with the Queen Bees? What sort of aspirations do you have for your future in the game as well?
Yeah, I think, for now, it focuses on staying fit and, preparing for next season. Who knows, maybe we get to do our playoff weekend. That might be a bit optimistic, but I think for now it's staying fit and staying in shape. But like you said, next season it's going to be all help. Plan is to go and win the league, win the playoffs. That's where my focus is at. So just kind of continuing to add value and deliver for the team and try and get us back to where we want to be next year.
Yep, great. That sounds like great goals, and it's always good to have aspirations like that as well. So we just want to thank you, obviously, for time for coming on to the podcast again, and hopefully you can stay safe, and we'll look forward to seeing the Queen Bees in action next season.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Scott and Cliff there interviewing Rachel Cartwright. Always great to have both those guys on the show. Rachel's been on a couple times, and as listeners will know, that Scotty is on most episodes with us as well. He's not on today because he was busy doing that interview. That's hot off the press. That happened just earlier. Always great to hear what Rachel has to say, because she's such an awesome player, and it's such a treat to have her on. But I want to move on to talking about something I mentioned earlier, and that's the Outliers book by Malcolm Gladwell. And now, really interestingly, or coincidentally, Rachel was just reading the same book at the same time I am. So both reading it at the moment. Or I think she might have just either reading it now or just finished it. Anyway, whatever. And so the story actually is about how things in your life can be somewhat predetermined, that you think you have influence over, but you really don't. And he starts off the whole book, and it's a really great read. Anybody, it's a plug for his book and everything else. I don't know him or whatever else, and hopefully he won't be mad about me talking about it. But it starts off using hockey in Canada as an example of what he's talking about in this outlier thing.
Okay.
And so he talks about the fact that in Canada and North America, and in fact most hockey nations, there's this enormous web of teams and the system that seeks to find all the talented young people right to the very four corners of the country. And he uses the Canadian system as an example, and how hockey from the professional leagues reaches its tentacles, if you will, reach all the way out to the smallest little community, to the smallest rink somewhere, and they find the talent, and that talent can be funneled up to basically major A hockey. And from there you step into the likes of the OHL and everything else, and from there possibly making it into the NHL. And so in theory, it's such a wide and advanced system that no talented people don't get discovered.
Yeah.
Is the idea. And so then he gets on to talking about how actually a lot of it has to do with the month that you were born in.
Okay.
And so the example he uses is there was this game for the Memorial Cup, which we've talked about in the past. For example, when London Knights won the Memorial Cup with Mitchie on the team and whatnot.
And you went and then saw the Memorial Cup?
Yeah. Dan and I went and checked out the cup. And so there was a Memorial Cup game between, I'm going to say, the Medicine Hat Tigers, and I'm trying to remember the name of the Vancouver team. Who would it have been? The Vancouver someone or others. Who's the Vancouver team that would have been? Whatever. I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, Medicine Hat versus Vancouver, and he's sitting in the audience and he's looking over the program, and it has all the birth dates of the players in there.
Okay.
And so he notices that there's this pattern. And the pattern is that 40% of the players have been born between January and March, so at the very beginning of the year. 40%.
That's a lot.
So almost half of them on the ice were born between January and March. 30%, another huge chunk, born between April and June. So that's, if you add those two together, in the first half of the year between January and June, 70% of the players playing in that game were born in the first half of the year, and 20% born between July and September, and 10% born between October and December. Now, without getting too deep into the book, because you should everybody out there should read this book, it's really interesting. Basically, what he's saying is that if you were born at the beginning of the year, the way that the age brackets for each league arbitrarily cut off, if you're born in the beginning of the year, you have longer in coaching. And so for the kids that say, like yourself, born in December, by the time that you would join, all the January kids have had almost 12 months of coaching and playing in that year.
Yeah.
And therefore, if they've already been put into sort of ability groups, even if you think about beginner hockey and stick and puck and learn to play and all that sort of thing, all those kids will be well in the top group and getting all the real focus and attention and whatnot. And that persists all the way through then. So they're always that little bit ahead. They're always half a year ahead. And so some players have to really redouble their efforts and massively try and make that ground up.
Yeah.
But they don't even realize that it's happening to them at the time, that they're actually being prejudiced against because of the month that they were born in. Interesting.
No,
So
yeah.
there's way more science to it than that. I'm really massively oversimplifying, right? So I started thinking about this, and I'm thinking, I wonder what that's like. So so you're December,
Yes.
which puts you in the worst category as far as he's
literally
concerned.
the worst ever.
Jonty, when's your birthday?
May.
Okay, so you're a May one, so that you're in the first half of the year, so you're in the good category. I'm a July, so I'm just into the second half of the year, which is not great. I asked Rachel Cartwright, and she's a June, which was a June baby. And so I thought, I wonder about the Leafs.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the Leafs lineup and see. So basically, all the best players in this guy's theory, the theory of outliers and all this predetermination, should suggest that all the best players in the league were born between January and June. So let's take a look. So Finn, you did a little bit of research and pulled out all the birth dates of most of the Leafs leading lineup, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to just whiz through them here for anybody that's listening. So you got Freddie Anderson, October, Jack Campbell, January, Jake Muzzin, February, Morgan Riley, March, Tyson Berry, July, Travis Dermott, December, Austin Matthews, September, Mitch Marner, May, John Tavares, September, Willie Nee, May, Zach Hyman, June, Andreas Janssen, November, Kasperi Kapanen, July, and Alex Kerfoot, August.
Yeah.
So anybody that was totting up there and remembering that the theory of the best hockey players in the world were born essentially between January and March will notice that we have a grand total in that lineup of...
6 out of 14 people there are born in the first half of the year.
Okay, so you went first half of the year. So in the real sweet spot of January to March, we've got 2 players.
3 if you count March.
3 if you count March itself. Is that right? Who's the other person? So I got Jack Campbell in January. I got Morgan Riley in March.
Jake was in February.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Jake Muzz in February. I'm not even sure if I said Muzz in the first time through. Anyway, so yeah, 3 of those players were born in the sweet spot. Now, this could explain a lot of Leafs trouble.
Could it? They're still really good.
I wonder if Dubas has read Outliers.
Should we, as Leafs Nation, send him multiple copies of the book so we know that he gets the book and he's reading it?
It's possible. It's possible. Listen, I just think this is a really interesting thing, and I just wanted to mention it's a short episode today, so we won't dig any further into it. But hey, do birthdays? Does the month you were born in make you a better hockey player? We'd love to hear any feedback on that from listeners. Hit us up on social media, on our Instagram or Twitter, or you can get a hold of us through our website or at our email address, which is ukhockeyfam@gmail.com. Finn, what do you got?
So I just Googled this. So Connor McDavid, arguably the best player in the NHL, voted by the players best player in the NHL. He was born in January.
There you go.
But then you have Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
He's born in August.
That's interesting, right? So this is really interesting. So, listeners, let's dig some more into this birthday thing. Hit us up. Tell us when your birthday is. Tell us who your favorite player is and when their birthday was. And we'll do a bit more analysis on this for another episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should jump off for now. We want to keep these ones short. We're bringing a couple out a week, so we don't want to make them too boring. But we will dig into some more hockey facts, more team stuff. If you want a topic covered or you want a team talked about, just get in touch with us through social media, and I can almost guarantee we'll get it on one of these NHL shutdown episodes.
Yeah.
So I think we should sign off for now. Obviously, stay safe out there. Stay in your house. If you're not a key worker, stay home. It's the best thing that you can do for everybody. The more that we stay at home, the quicker that this will all be over and we'll all be back on the ice. So thanks again for listening. Thanks for all the hard-working folks out there that are keeping us safe. Big thanks to the NHS here in the UK. And that's it for us. This is Shane signing off.
That's it for me, I think, actually.
Okay.
I think that's it for me. I don't know. I could be on later somehow. See you guys.
Yeah. See you soon, guys.
Is the best game you can name, and the best game you can name is the good old hockey game.